welcome to OWTV's Power Hour. I'm your host, Crystal Gurion, and today I have with me Naomi and Josh. So guys, today we're going to be talking about Valentine's Day disasters. So first and foremost, how was your guys' Valentine's Day?
Mine was kind of a little bit lame, I guess. I didn't really do anything. I just hung out at home.
What about you, Josh?
For me, it was semi-eventful, only for the fact it was my last day of work.
Oh, okay.
Where I used to work, so.
Did you see a lot of happy couples running around the city?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I used to work at Best Buy, which is weird to say used to, but there was flowers and chocolates coming in almost all day.
Now, I know most people have the stigma of Valentine's Day being like this romantic thing. You have to, show off who your other half is, for lack of a better word, or, make them seem like they're the most important thing in the world. Being that, like my Valentine's Day, for example, wasn't amazing, but being that, we're not in the ideal relationships, how do we as outsiders, how do you think people see us that are in relationships?
I think sometimes people see people that are in relationships maybe with envy or like a little bit of jealousy. Because like through Instagram, like through pictures of them like with their Valentine's Day gifts and like, them with their boyfriend or girlfriend, they see that as being like, oh, they have the perfect relationship, or oh, they're celebrating Valentine's Day, so there might be some envy and a little bit of jealousy with that.
Yeah.
I definitely agree in that sense. I mean, just as Naomi said, it was all over Instagram, it was all over Snapchat, trending on Facebook, Twitter, I mean, as expected. But it's definitely a holiday, because I know some call it Singles Awareness Day. So
That's interesting.
it's a holiday that I think can have much reverence, but also much envy.
Right. Now, being that this year Valentine's Day was the same weekend as All-Star Weekend, I know that a lot of people were like, what is Valentine's Day? What is a relationship? It's All-Star Weekend. I'm going to go find me an NBA player. I'm going to be in the club, drinking and stuff. So did that affect you guys in any way? Being that it was like, All-Star Weekend, what does Valentine's Day,
Well, for me, how I mentioned, it was my last day of work. Saturday was, so Sunday I actually went out at night, because when I originally proposed going out Saturday night, I looked like when I had 10 heads, because nobody wanted to go out on Saturday night on Valentine's Day. Everyone had their dates. So I don't even know so much it was about All-Star Weekend, just everyone else was doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Naomi?
The All-Star thing didn't really affect me that much because I wasn't really into that whole thing and I didn't know anybody who was. So I was kind of just like, oh, All-Star Weekend, like, what's that? I was kind of like the opposite, like not what's that Valentine's Day. I was kind of like, what's that All-Star?
Right. Like, for example, I was on a date Saturday night. We went to dinner, and then my boyfriend goes, oh, well, I'm going to the club tonight. And I was just kind of like, my heart.
You were taken aback.
I was really taken aback. So I was definitely affected by the whole All-Star Weekend thing, being that I'm not a fan of like really sports. How do you think like myself, women who are in relationships whose boyfriends did go out, how do you think they felt being that, their Valentine's Day pretty much was cut off by this whole basketball thing?
I guess those guys had it planned already in their head. Maybe they may not have revealed it so much, just as your significant other kind of dropped that bombshell on you.
Yeah.
But I feel like for couples that maybe are not into sports together, it was almost like, all right, well, bye.
Yeah.
Like they kind of just pieced out.
Right. What do you think, Naomi?
I kind of agree with Josh with that.
Yeah.
That it's different for people who are into the All-Star thing and then couples who weren't.
Right.
And they were kind of like, whatever.
How much, being that Valentine's Day is Hallmark's, basically, it brings in the most revenue for Hallmark. It's kind of their best day of the year because everyone's like buying teddy bears, balloons, fake flowers, candy. How do you think other companies felt being that, most people were like strip clubs? Nobody was at the strip club Saturday night. So how do you think, well, we never know. How do you think other companies dealt with the fact that most of the revenue was being, pushed in another direction?
I think that just gets, honestly, to business planning and business strategy. I mean, you need to know as a business, all right, I'm going to be expecting an increased amount of traffic this weekend, while next weekend it's probably going to be a lot slower. Like,
Right.
for example, working in retail, I knew that from, say, September really to January, it was going to be completely feet to the pedal and just going completely, well, the summer is going to be a little slower. I have a friend that used to work at 1-800-Flowers, and he basically told me there was nonstop, obviously Valentine's Day and the weekend in general.
Yeah, I didn't even get flowers on Valentine's Day.
That's a shame.
That sucks.
Isn't it? What about you, Naomi? What do you think? What companies do you think, well, being that we're females, what companies do you think would have benefited more if it wasn't Valentine's Day weekend?
I think, like you said, the strip clubs would have benefited more.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm not really sure. But I think it depends on, because companies like prepare for that kind of thing in advance.
Right.
Like as far as like Valentine's Day and stuff, they like bring in more shipments of stuff, and they like prepare for it more. So if you're a business and you want to do well on Valentine's Day, it depends on like what you're selling and what you advertise towards, I guess.
Right. So what do you think could have been the worst thing that could have possibly happened to someone, being that it was Valentine's Day?
Being dumped. I feel like that's the worst thing. I think the worst is getting broken up with by a guy or a girl like the week before Valentine's Day. Because like then you think, oh, like they knew it was Valentine's Day and they didn't want to get me anything.
Yeah, some
so
people
they just
use
like
it
broke
as
it
a
off.
tactic, usually. Like they say, well, I don't want to get her Valentine's Day gift because she's really high maintenance. Let's break up and then let me apologize, in a week and a half or so.
Right.
So what do you think, Josh?
Well, in that respect, I feel like they would end up getting a gift anyway. If anything, it may have to be a more expensive gift because now you're trying to make up for your mistake. But as far as the worst thing, I think more so than just being broken up with would probably be a rejection on a marriage proposal. I mean, especially if it's a grand gesture, like if the guy gets down on one knee full on in public and then the girl says no, that's humiliation on the guy and the girl's part for that matter.
Do you watch Love and Hip Hop? Because that happened
do.
with Joe Budden and Tahiri. I'm just saying, he proposed to her on 42nd Street and she was like, no. I was just like, wow, okay. So what do we think, how do we come back from the Valentine's Day disasters? Being that, some people got dumped and some people weren't too happy about the way that their Valentine's Day went. How do we, retract that?
I think bottom line is Valentine's Day or any other holiday for that matter, it's just one day. It's one day, things do happen, and then the next day is just like a regular day. So you might have to just pick yourself back up and kind of, move on from the situation or deal with what happened, like in like a timely manner. But it's kind of like one day, like it's one holiday, and people tend to put so much emphasis on it where, at the end of the day, it is kind of like one day. So you kind of have to, if you got rejected or something happened, then kind of like, deal with it, I guess.
Right.
Similar to Naomi, like it is just one day, but I feel like as well, a lot of people forget it's not all about telling, say, your boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other that you love them. It's about telling the rest of the people in your life that you love them.
Right.
Because I feel like so much focus is placed on it just being a couple holiday per se, as opposed to, say, like a holiday to express your love and admiration for someone, be it friends, family, whomever.
Right.
Okay.
Well, from this today, we've learned that Valentine's Day is not about showing your significant other that you love them. It's about telling the rest of the world that you love them. So take every day of the year to do that, not just one day. So this is OW's Power Hour. I'm your host, Krista Guillon, and thank you for watching.